Good evening. Namo Buddhaya. Hello to all our early birds who had logged in early and on time. May the blessings of the Triple Gem be with you and family. Before we begin, please do me a favor. Number one, please wish our speaker tonight, Dr. Puna Wong, and to the Dharma friends who are all over with us, the organizing team who are residing in different localities of the country and Buddhist society. Number two, please tell us where you're watching from. Put it in the chat box. We have viewers from the north to the south of the country, Malaysia, we have Singapore, Indonesia, and many other countries. Doctor?
We have visitors to our site watching also live from India, from Japan, Hong Kong, United States, and Britain. So we are very grateful for an international audience.
Isn't that wonderful? And you're all very lucky. Today we have the opportunity, we have the condition to listen to a very inspiring Dharma talk. Number three, as we progress during the talk, if you like this online event, please continue to give us a like or any other emoji to encourage us that you are enjoying the program. Isn't that awesome? All right, brothers and sisters. Any one of you out there who are listening to this talk for the very first time, you can let us know. If you are one of them, not to worry. You can always refer to the Buddhist Society's Facebook or the YouTube. You can view, listen to all the previous talks. For those who are the first timers, if you do not know the speaker or his talks, now I must tell you is that not only that has been giving Dharma talks regularly in this country, Singapore, Jakarta, Manila, and Bangkok, and several countries, but he had written 3 Dharma books. He had dedicated his time delivering the talks based on his books. Doctor, what are the 3 books you have written?
Well, actually, it's 2 books. The first book, Walking in the Buddha's Footprint, about 5 years ago. And the second book, Breaking Myths, about 2 years ago. And the third book is not written by me, but the third book is actually a print for which we got permission to reprint for free distribution in Malaysia, because it's such a wonderful book that we feel everybody should have the opportunity to have it. The third book is called Buddhist Wisdom, and it's available free for anyone who wishes to have it. Just contact us and we'll try our best to get a copy to you.
Isn't it great? You're the lucky ones because you are following us this online live. And today we must be very grateful to the speaker, Dr. Puna, who chooses to come over to Subang Jaya Buddhist Association from the south today, from Johor Bahru, which is about 4 hours drive. Can you imagine? It was raining heavily for the whole day. Please help me to express your gratitude over the chat box. Dr. Puna, perhaps you can tell us what was your motivation or the compass within you that had given so much energy and enthusiasm in propagation of the Dharma to all ages, especially to the young ones?
Well, I think many of us who have learned the Buddha's teachings have benefited tremendously. And what we would like to do is to share this tremendous benefit that we have with the other people who may be in need because they are either in emotional distress or suffering. The wonderful teachings of the Buddha is an open book. The only thing is for people to be aware there is this wonderful teachings, we have to offer it like an open book to everyone and anyone. And the only way we can do it is through sharing of talks, printing of books to make it widely available. The other thing, of course, is the Buddha had taught us that the gift of the Dhamma is the greatest of all gifts. So I think that it is beholden to all of us in all the various societies to do our best, to do what we can to help people be aware of these teachings of the Buddha.
Isn't it that great? Especially during this COVID-19 period, when lots of people are misplaced or they are facing economic difficulties. And with this online talk, we are able to reach out to them, and perhaps it also reduce their stress. Very good. And tonight's talk is the final talk of the series, Walking in the Buddha's Footprints. I'm sure the audience out there are all waiting patiently for another inspirational Dharma talk, why I cannot be anything other than Buddhist. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Brother Chuan. We started this series of talks 2 years ago. And Brother Chuan, the wonderful people at Subanjaya Buddhist Association invited me to give a talk. And we started 2 years ago sharing the first talk on a Friday night from the book Breaking Myths. And then this went on until now. We are reaching the end of this second series of talk. And I felt it the right thing to do, that I must come up to Subanjaya and give the broadcasting from Subanjaya. We started here and we will end this series here. And after this, we will take a break for Chinese New Year and resume our sharing after the Chinese New Year. So please keep a watch on our Facebook pages and we will notify you. Now, tonight's sharing, why I cannot be anything other than Buddhist, is a personal testimony to the journeys I've made in my spiritual quest. And I think one of the wonderful quotes in the Dhammapada is, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Sooner or later, these 3 things will come to your attention and you will be aware of it if only you search. Now, theistic beliefs provide the ease of emotional reliance. Karl Marx, no less, was the man who called theistic religions the opiate of the suffering masses, because it's like giving opium to people who are suffering, relieving their emotional pain. And for me, I started my spiritual quest as a teenager, right in school itself. And while initially theistic religions and beliefs provide lots of comfort because of literally the surrendering of your emotions, intellectual honesty very soon came into the picture. And I started to ask, what am I to believe in versus what do I see? What do I logically analyze around me? And I found it very, very difficult to reconcile what is taught to me by my very good teachers and what I can see myself experientially. Now, in contrast, the teachings of the Buddha are logical and it is based on personal experience. No one is asked to accept any dogmas or creeds. No one is asked to accept things based on faith, myths, or decrees. And most wonderfully, there's no intolerant attitude towards dissenting views or ideas. You can very well disagree with the Buddha, and even during his lifetime, there were lots of people who disagreed with the Buddha. So now, if I were to ask Brother Chuan, my wonderful senior in the Dhamma here, I said, Brother Chuan, can you believe in Zeus? About 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, Zeus was a very, very popular god. And even today in common consciousness, people are still aware of Zeus because of movies, of cartoons, etc. And I tell Brother Chuan that if you believe in Zeus with all your heart, everything will be solved. All your problems will be okay. And Brother Chuan, being a very intelligent man, investigates and realizes that Zeus is very much like him. Zeus has lust, has jealousy, has anger. He strikes people with bolts of lightning when he's angry. And very soon, Brother Chuan began to realize that actually man created a personality called Zeus, very much like himself, except much more powerful. And this man, just like himself, gets angry, changes his mind, is revengeful, jealous, and often petty. And very soon, Brother Chuan will realize that actually Zeus is created in man's image. Now, if you look at ancient Greece and Roman deities, you see a whole host of them. Just like the Chinese have, we have one for everything. You want one for lightning, we'll have one for lightning. You want one for rain, we'll have one for rain, etc. Now, very soon, a very intelligent Brother Chuan will realize that all these superheroes are created just like us. Sexist, intolerant, homophobic, and violent. And Brother Chuan will very soon realize that he has to make a decision. Do I accept this, or do I find this not acceptable because I cannot commit intellectual suicide? Now, Horus. I love Horus. Why? Because I'm a medical doctor. And every time I write a prescription for whoever I see as patients, I actually invoke the power of Horus. Many doctors are not aware of this, including many of my patients. Now, the personal life of Horus and what he did and what he had, you can easily find on the internet, and you can read it for yourself. But what is very interesting is that Horus, who existed as a very popular deity 4,000 years ago, is still very much alive today. And every time you have a medical prescription, you will see the doctor write R, X, this X is actually a stroke across the lower arm of the arm. This is the symbol in medicine for treatment. And so he will write, oh, treatment for reducing, cholesterol lowering medicine, antiplatelet, etc. And then he will fill this prescription. But not many people, including doctors, realize that this is the eye of the god Horus. This is the eye of Horus. And every time we write a prescription, you're invoking this very powerful deity of 4,000 years ago to watch over your patient and to bless your prescription. Now, isn't that interesting? You might say that, oh, this is ancient Egyptian mythology, but it is still very powerful and very alive in our subconscious mind even today. Another example, don't brush all these people, all these deities as ancient history. Every time Brother Sim, Brother Chuan mentioned the days of the week, for example, Brother Chuan say, hey, when are you coming? And we say, oh, I'm coming on Thursday. Are you aware that you are honoring the god Thor? Because Thor, his day is Thursday. An easier one is Sunday. Literally, the worshipping of the sun is done on Sunday. So these deities have great influence on our thinking, including all the planets. Now, another very important thing as I investigated as a young man is evolution. I love National Geographic. Used to have piles of National Geographic. And you see lots and lots of articles on evolution. Now, to a Buddhist, evolution is crucial, for we need to evolve to be a perfect spiritual being. Evolution is very much part of the path that we walk in the Buddha Dharma. We all need to evolve to be better people, a better physical, a better spiritual being. But if you are to accept, for example, creation, then all the things that we see, from the fossils of the dinosaurs, to geology, to Grand Canyon, to even images of an even presently evolving universe, has to be rejected. Now, in 1996, I was very happy, because in 1996, the late Pope John Paul lent his support to the theory of evolution, proclaiming it compatible. To me, that is a quantum leap, because this is no one less than Pope John Paul himself who accepted publicly evolution. Now, another very important thing which to my young mind as a young student in a mission school was I kept asking, why so much suffering? I think that suffering is a common denominator to many, if not most of us. It's there if you just open your eyes. Even the most happy of my friends have lots of moments where they suffered emotionally. Now, the existence of dukkha cannot be reconciled with the existence of an all-powerful and all-knowing being who is also all good. That means to say, you have a being who is all-powerful, omnipotent, all-knowing, omniscient, and who is also good, benevolent. These three qualities cannot exist together in the face of so much suffering. And the Buddhist Jataka puts it very clearly. In the Jataka tale here, it is stated, if the creator of the world entire they call God, of every being be the Lord, why does he order much misfortune and not create happiness, but only discord? If the creator of the world, entire world, they call God, of every being be the Lord, why prevail deceit, lies, and ignorance? And he such inequality and injustice create. Now this is from the Jataka, and this is at least 2,000 years old. And people 2,000 years old were already questioning these three things that cannot possibly exist together. That means the Buddha showed that the three commonly given attributes of omnipotent, omniscience, and benevolence towards humanity cannot be mutually compatible with the self-evident truth of dukkha. That means if you have an all-potent, all-powerful, all-knowing, benevolent, powerful deity, then all this dukkha should not happen. Now, Epicurus, a Greek philosopher, asked the same question also about 4,000 years ago. Almost the same question. Now, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Young people in the audience may not know who is he, but he was a big hero for people of my generation. This is the generation of South African blatant racism, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu was one of those very prominent figures fighting for equality, for independence, and basically for equal light under the sun in South Africa. He was one of our heroes, together with Nelson Mandela, the Dalai Lama. They were all the heroes of my youth. In 2001, the Honorable Archbishop was 69 years old and suffering from prostate cancer. A journalist interviewed him, and he gave a very frank interview about his illness and the possibility that he might pass on. And the journalist asked him, what will you ask God, when that cancer finally takes over and you meet him? And Archbishop Desmond Tutu, is one person never to be introspective or quiet. He's very vocal. And he said a great deal. Why, God, did you make suffering so central to everything? Why? He asked. Now, to me as a young man then, this was an interview which really touched me. Here was a man of faith who dedicated his entire life to his faith, who for all intent and purposes was a good man doing the best he can. And he asked the very same questions to which the Buddha answered 2,600 years ago. Why so much suffering? Why? To me, the Buddha gave this answer 2,600 years ago. And it really made my saddha, my confidence in the Buddha grow. So why? When you read about all the horrors that happen in the world, silence of an all-powerful deity in the face of such horror is so loud that none of us could fail to ask why. How could a just and loving deity have allowed train load after train load of human beings to be murdered as at Auschwitz? Surely all those people prayed very, very hard. And why, similarly, when more recently the Khmer Rouge slaughtered 1.7 million Cambodians? Again, surely they prayed very hard. Now, the real truth is that divinity did not fail simply because he or she is not and was not in charge. Neither is the Buddha. The fault lies with us human beings who chose to do unspeakably unwholesome things to ourselves. The other question I raised right from young, which I could not accept, is why nepotism? Why adulation? Now, mortal man, right from the caveman to now, yearn for the consoling presence of a big brother who can watch him and protect him from the forces of nature which he does not understand. How nice if we have a big brother who will protect us from all these things. Hence, if a divine power can be moved to act by praises, by offerings, by sacrifices, by prayers, in a manner that the prayee wishes, wow, then this prayee has a share in the omnipotence of his deity. That means this prayee can literally alter the forces of nature, the laws of physics in his favor. He can actually interfere with nature in the direction that he wishes through prayer. Now, this is, of course, very tempting. And many young people, including me at one stage of my life, accepted this, and it provided a lot of emotional relief. But as one matures, one finds that logically, this is very, very difficult to accept and unrealistic. Now, I look at my good brother Ju Sing, who is a fanatic about football. So the Liverpool players are praying for their team to win. The West Ham players are praying for their team to win. So what happens? Who is to decide which team is to win? The one that prayed harder? I don't think so, because simply the divinity is not in charge of which football team is going to win. But people actually do that. Same with wars. Now, if you look at what the Buddha taught, in the Anguttara Nikaya 543 is the Itta Sutta. In this sutta, the Buddha clearly said to Ananda Pindika, a householder, long life. Everybody wants long life. Everybody, men, women, wants beauty. Not only do women dye their hair and put makeup nowadays, even men dye their hair and put makeup nowadays. I'm told that even men take handbags nowadays. Happiness, status, heavenly rebirth, the Buddha said, everyone wants this. Everyone is praying very hard for long life, beauty, happiness, status, heavenly rebirth. And the Buddha put it very, very clearly. These 5 things are not to be obtained by reason of prayers or wishes. And the Buddha said it so explicitly. If they can be obtained through prayers or wishes, everyone will be having them. Just look around you. Do you see people whose lives are short? Surely they prayed very hard. Do you see people who are not so beautiful, not so happy, who doesn't have high status? Well, surely they prayed very hard as well. But the Buddha said, no, you cannot obtain any of these by prayers. If you want these, if you want these things, the Buddha said, then please, you should follow the path of practice leading to it. That means you jolly well work hard and create the causes for it. Now, to many people, they find this very disappointing, and they say, "Ayah, Buddhism no use. I see prayer also no use one." But to me, in great contrast, actually, I find this not at all disappointing, but realistic, fair, and true. All I got to do is to look around. Do people fall sick? Yeah, as a doctor, every day I see people fall sick. I just spent about 20 minutes on the phone just now talking to someone with regards to this. Do people die? Conduct lots of funerals. No matter how religious, how spiritual you are, you will still die. So what I mean is, let us look at reality. Let us not look at what we hope is true, but look at reality. And this is what the Buddha wants us to do. Because basically nature is impartial. It cannot be flattered by prayer. So instead, we are taught, if you can control the situation, by all means act. So if we can do Dhamma Duta work, if we can come to Kuala Lumpur, by all means act, do it. If you can't control it, that means, for example, during the MCO, we can't move, and you insist on moving, then you are just striving for no good reason. If you can do something, but you don't act, then you are just giving up, which is also not something we want you to do. But if you realize that something cannot be controlled, and you don't act but accept it, in Buddhism, we call that letting go. There are many things which we learn to let go, because we know that that is reality, a fact to be accepted. Now again, when we look at history, I see much bloodshed and much cruelty. History records the nameless multitudes who were slaughtered and subjugated in the name of religion. And when people believe in chosen race and divine favoritism, then unfortunately acts of religious fundamentalism will take place. And I think many of you will be aware or are aware that during the Inquisition, lots and lots of good people were tortured and killed for dissenting views, including the great scientist Galileo, who realized that it was the earth that went around the sun. And because he published it and taught it, he got into big trouble. He's lucky that his head did not get lopped off and he was just put under house arrest. Now, dear Dhamma family, as I matured out of my youthful years, I begin to realize that we need a rational religion of logic as against religions of emotion. Logic that can help us understand through our own free inquiry of the observable events around us. Why so much pain? Why so much suffering? Why do we have so much things that make us feel emotionally unhappy, deprived, frustrated? Now we need to understand ourselves, and hence you need logic rather than just emotional relief. And in this, one will find the Buddha Dharma very comprehensive, very practical, and highly profound. Sad reality, of course, is many people don't want the truth. They just want constant reassurance that what they believe in is the truth. So sometimes we will find that it is difficult because it is so easy to just surrender your emotions to a higher being and say, okay, all is well. In this era of the 21st century, the age of believing is over. Now we are in the age of knowing. We are in the new industrial revolution. And this industrial revolution is the revolution of knowledge. Instant knowledge is available to everyone. The Dhamma. Let us be very clear. The Dhamma, often we think, the Buddha's teachings. And then with it, because of the Pali word Dhamma or the Sanskrit word Dharma, we think of it as something very exoteric. Especially when we hear it in Pali or Sanskrit and we say, such an exoteric thing. But the Dhamma is basically just how nature works, how nature is. And often we use the word the laws of nature, but we must not confuse that when we say the laws of nature, this is not laws passed in parliament. This is just a description of how nature is. Now the Buddha merely described the way nature works. He did not invent or create any laws. And the Dhamma, which describes nature, exists. whether or not there is a Buddha. Even if there is not a Buddha, the very core teachings of the Dhamma, of impermanence, dissatisfaction, and non-self still hold true. The Four Noble Truths still hold true. Now, we must clearly move away from the misconception that the Buddha is some kind of a God figure. The Buddha is not some kind of a God figure. And if we are to place the Buddha as some kind of a God figure, we actually downgrade the Buddha. Because the Buddha is a perfectly enlightened being. But the Devas are still within samsara. The Devas are not perfectly enlightened. The Devas still have the defilements of greed, anger, jealousy, lust. They go to war. They want people to praise them. They want people to bodeg them, make offerings to them. But the Buddha is a perfectly enlightened being who is freed from all defilements, all greed, ill will, and delusion. He has no need to be praised, nor is he ever jealous, for he has eradicated all such mundane mind states. Whether you praise the Buddha or do not praise the Buddha, or make offerings to the Buddha or not make offerings to the Buddha, basically, it's no difference to your path to awakening. Now, you need not believe in or praise the Buddha to become an enlightened being. The Buddha tells us that everything has its causes and conditions. And this includes the Devas. In fact, it is only within the Buddha Dharma that the Buddha explained how the Devas became Devas because of their past great wholesome acts, their past great acts of merit, that they became reborn or became re-becoming as Devas. So if I were to ask you, who gave birth to the Buddha? Many of you, including Sister Angeline, my answer, including my wife who teaches Dhamma classes to little children, Queen Maya. Well, all of you are wrong. Queen Maya gave birth to Siddhartha Gautama. It is wisdom that gave birth to the Buddha. Queen Maya did not give birth to the Buddha. Queen Maya gave birth to Siddhartha Gautama. What gave birth to the Buddha? What made him become a Buddha?
Oh, why?
All right, that's why it is often said, Prajna is the mother of all Buddhas. Prajna being supreme wisdom. Now, these are harsh facts that we have to live with and deal with. The first noble truth is one of the fundamental teachings of the Buddha Dharma. It's a statement of fact, not a statement to patronize us or to make us feel good, but a statement of fact that there is sickness, decay, old age, death, separation from loved ones, and the constant process of not having your desires fulfilled. All things are impermanent. They are always changing. And because of that, this will occur. And because of its instability, because of the nature of its impermanence, it is unreliable. And it gives rise to a lot of dukkha or emotional stress, because all of it is non-self. These are the common denominators of life taught to us in the first noble truth. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, makes no difference. Even if you are born with a silver spoon in your mouth, it still makes no difference, because these are the common denominators of life. Of course, we have many happy moments. Of course, there's lots of sukha as well, but they are transitory and constantly under the threat of misfortune and change. Now, the Buddha Dharma is concerned with the practical task of helping us deepen our insight, to help us get out of this dukkha, to lessen our suffering. So our fate is in our hands, what we do, the causes that we create, the seeds that we plant. And salvation is not by grace or blood, but in perfecting ourselves in deed and wisdom via a gradual course of training. Now, the Buddha Dharma does not deny the presence of deities or devas or devis. The Buddha Dharma is not atheistic, because within the Buddha Dharma, one of the important things under right view, the Buddha said, is the presence of these higher beings, devas, devis, deities. But the Buddha Dharma is non-theistic, because it does not depend on these higher beings for your attainment, for your wisdom, for your awakening. Any theist who believes in deities who leads a moral life will be just like any other Buddhist, expecting a good outcome, a good rebirth or rebecoming. You do not have to call yourself a Buddhist or anything, as long as you are a good moral person, doing good, wholesome deeds. Now, the path of the Buddha Dharma is based on personal experience, rationalism, practice, morality, and insight. And the Buddha's instructions to us are very clear: to accept nothing, even when and if it is taught by him. Even when someone said it is from the Buddha's mouth, you accept nothing, because you need to verify it, to find out for yourself. You must treat his teaching as a boat that is needed to cross a river. And only when you test it and find it to be true, then you accept it. So we need to destroy the ignorance that inundates all of us, especially the concept of a separate, autonomous being, egoistic, static, concrete entities, you versus me. That is one of the fundamental flaws in our thinking. We need to develop full insight into impermanence, suffering, dukkha, and non-self. Because it's only when you have full insight into impermanence, suffering, and non-self that will lead to this seismic change in your thinking and attitudes that will finally free you. Please remember the first 5 ascetics, on listening to the Buddha teach them on the 3 universal characteristics of impermanence, anicca, dukkha, suffering or emotional stress, and non-self, anatta, they became awakened. Now, it is not by faith, but by sight. Almost all theistic religions are based on faith, so-called a leap of faith. You must take a leap of faith. But in the Buddha Dharma, emphasis is not on that. Emphasis is on seeing, knowing, understanding. And to me, when I was a young man, wow, a huge fundamental difference. It is not on faith or belief. In the Buddhist text, you will see the word sada. And very often, the early translators translated this as faith or belief, and we are stuck with that common consciousness. But sada is not faith. It is rather confidence in the Buddha's teachings. If I were to tell Sister Angeline that you've got 10 fingers, and Sister Angeline believes in me, that is faith. But if Sister Angeline is to look at her hands and see, I've got 10 fingers, then Sister Angeline need not have any faith in me, because now she knows. She has jnana. She doesn't have to believe in me. That is what the Buddha wants us to have. Direct insight, not blind faith. Brothers and sisters, a very crucial question. So after all that I said, now if someone is to ask any one of us here, where is the Buddha? Now you have said that the Buddha is not a deva, not a devi, not a deity, but a perfectly enlightened being who is awakened. Where is the Buddha? What is the answer? The Buddha right now is in your mind. The Buddha himself said, one who sees the Dhamma sees the Tathagata. Tathagata is the word the Buddha used when he refers to himself. One who sees the Tathagata sees the Dhamma. That means one who sees not the Dhamma, even though you are grasping at the rope of the Tathagata, you cannot be said to have seen the Tathagata. So anyone who sees the Dhamma, you have seen the Buddha. Because it is the Dhamma which gave birth to the Buddha. It is wisdom which is the mother of the Buddha. So if we are to ask, where is the Buddha today? The answer is in my mind. Now behind me is a wonderful, beautiful Buddha image. Beautiful marble image. And I see sister sitting right in front of me. And sister might be bowing in respect to the Buddha. Deep prostrations, 5-pointed. And I would ask sister, what are you doing, sister? And sister replies, I am prostrating to the Buddha. I can tell sister, no, you're prostrating to a marble image. You're not prostrating to the Buddha. Because we honestly don't even know how the Buddha looks like. This is artistic representation. This is icon. This is the apple of my Mac. The apple is not my Mac. The apple is the icon of my Mac. So I ask sister again, what are you doing, sister? She thinks, I am prostrating, quote unquote, Ajahn Brahm, to all the good qualities as represented in this Buddha image. The qualities of compassion, wisdom, benevolence, insight, awakening. And I ask sister again, sister, can you reflect again? What are you prostrating to? The sister, being very wise, answers, I'm prostrating to all the qualities that I want to have. In short, sister, you are prostrating to your future self. You are prostrating to you in the future, to all the qualities that you see as represented in this image. Those of you who may have been to Mahayana centers, for example, will realize that there's a very popular level where people, for example, say, oh, I pray to Kuan Yin. My late mother was very devout. Every morning, every evening, my late mother will be chanting. Every morning, every evening, Ta Pe Chou, without fail. Very, very devout. That's one level of popular religion. It gave her immense emotional comfort. But sister here will be far more deeper in her search. And I asked sister, why are you prostrating to Kuan Yin? Sister says, I want to have that great compassion, benevolence, metta, karuna, as represented by that image of Kuan Yin. And I say, wonderful, sister. But can you tell me more, sister? And sister finally realizes, I'm actually prostrating to what I want to be. I am Kuan Yin. I am going to be that metta, karuna. I'm going to be that loving kindness, compassion. All right? So we have popular religion, we have your quest, and you have what you finally realize. They are very different at all three levels. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, when I reached my 60th birthday some years ago, good Dhamma family members said I must celebrate. Good Dhamma family members took me out for makan, etc., etc. And I said, what can I do in return to my good family members for doing this? And of course, Brother Ju Sing, being the endlessly resourceful man that he is, said, we will print a t-shirt with a message that you like. And said, I will print a message that made me become a Buddhist. And one of the first things I learned in the Buddha Dhamma, and yet one of the most profound things that I've learned in the Buddha Dhamma, it is just 2 lines of 8 words. And that 2 lines of 8 words made me realize that the path that I've decided to walk is completely different from any other theistic religion. 2 lines only. The first line says, 佛在心中. The Buddha is in my mind. Xin in Chinese is not heart, huh? It's mind, thinking, brain. 心中有佛. In my mind is the Buddha. The two lines may sound the same, but they're actually very, very different. What does the first line say? 佛在心中. As I said, this is completely different from all theistic religions. In most people, if I had to ask Brother Chuan, where is Zeus? Well, Zeus is there on Mount Olympus with all his wives and mistresses. Where's the Buddha? The Buddha is not out there, not there, not there. The Buddha is in Brother Chuan's mind. That is already a 180-degree complete difference. Second line, 心中有佛. Horrors have to die for you, Brother Chuan, because you are a bad man. You are a sinner. Because of that, Horus have to die for you. Thank goodness Horus was resurrected a few days later. But in the Buddha Dharma, Brother Chuan is a perfect being. Only thing he doesn't know it. Brother Chuan has the Buddha nature in him. Brother Chuan is like that beautiful statue of David that Michelangelo chipped. All Michelangelo need to do is to chip away all the excess marble, and there the beautiful statue of David. It was already in the marble. In Brother Chuan is already the Buddha nature. All we got to do is chip away, and that Buddha nature will arise. Every time Brother Chuan thinks of doing something good, like he took me and Brother Jusing and the rest to dinner tonight, well, that's the Buddha nature being alive. Every time he thinks of something naughty, the Buddha nature fan gao. The nature is in all of us. Here, dear Sister Angeline, is two lines that teaches us all the difference. First, your refuge is not somewhere out there. Your refuge is in here. In here. Second, Angeline, you're not a sinner. You are already have all the qualities in you to be an Arahant, to be a Bodhisattva, to be a Buddha. You only need to chip away, like Michelangelo did, of the excess, and there you are. I find these two lines completely different from any theistic religion. So I made this t-shirt, gave it to all my friends who took me out for dinner, etc., because I wanted them to see, can you understand these two lines? So I'm a free thinker. I've not found any philosophy or religion so pragmatic and comprehensive as the Buddha Dharma. That's why I cannot be a non-Buddhist. The Buddha has taught me to be a free thinker. In the Kalama Sutta, he even told us, please think, use your intellect, use your brain. Ask yourself questions. So freed from the shackles of creeds, dogmas, please let us think for ourselves. Let us start thinking. You are a free thinker when you learn from the Buddha. You are a free thinker when you are no longer chained by all the dogmas, etc., etc. You know, I want to end. You know, when the first Arahants were sent by the Lord Buddha out to teach, the Lord Buddha said to them, you are now freed from all divine and human factors. That line is amazing. So, while you may understand what you mean by being freed from divine factors, the Buddha also said you are now even freed from human factors. The human factors of you being female, so you cannot do this, or you being a female, you cannot be enlightened, or you from a lower caste. All these human factors, the Buddha said, no more. You are freed. And even divine factors, you are freed. So please use this to help yourself to think, and then you will appreciate the wonderful Buddha Dharma and its very, very profound teachings. And the Buddha is not a person for us to worship. Certainly, he never wanted us to worship him. We respect him as the greatest of teachers. But the Buddha is a mind state for all of us to be attained. You will know that that Buddha is in you. And that seed, that Buddha nature is already in every one of us. With that, I would like to end. Thank you very much. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much. Isn't it a hard-knocking talk that we will change our mind, press upon us? Well, I find that talk this evening is a hard-knocking for all of us. We have been brought up thinking that it's easier to just pray and ask about our Zen. I wish that I can get a very beautiful girlfriend as my wife. Then we need to pray. And tonight, you're mentioning is that, well, it doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. Then, to me, is that it is difficult for the younger generation to accept it. What do you think? How are we going to do about it?
Yes, indeed it is, because as I said, when you are young, it is very, very nice to have a big brother. Everyone wants to have a big brother. And I think that Brother Chuan's example of wanting to have a very nice, beautiful girlfriend is very apt. Because I think you can stay in a cave and pray very, very hard to have a very beautiful, capable girlfriend. The chances of you actually achieving that is not going to be too high. Well, the Buddha, in fact, taught you the other way, Brother Chuan, that if you want to have a very beautiful and capable girlfriend, he said you're going to work for it. You're going to create the conditions for it. So if you want to have a very wonderful and beautiful girlfriend, then you better jolly well study hard, have a good career, have a good personality, and you create the causes for you to have a wonderful, beautiful, capable girlfriend. And I think that's very, very fair. Because if everyone is to just sit around, do nothing, and pray for a very beautiful girlfriend, and then they have a very beautiful girlfriend, I think that's corruption at very high levels, you know.
Well, that's all. One thing that I find it difficult is that it's a knowledge age now with the internet, and the young is getting information just by a click, and it's much easier. And not like our days, we have a teacher, we have an elder brother. So for we Buddhists, if we want to propagate to the young, is there any approach that we can conform to their way so that they will listen?
Yes.
The greatness of the Dhamma.
I think that's a very important question, and something I've been shouting myself hoarse for the last few years. I think that one, we have to embrace modern technology. The days whereby you hold a pointer in front of a cardboard, screeching with a chalk, are over. Those days are relegated to history. Now, children nowadays are already very stressed. They have to attend school, they have to attend tuition, on top of that swimming class, taekwondo class, and piano lessons. And to force a child to come on Sunday or a Friday in Johor's case, to listen to more talks by a very boring teacher is going to be, to put it mildly, not very appetizing. So I think that just like in university education now, we have changed. I've taught in a university for many, many years, and I can see the evolution of teaching in a university. Now everything is multi-audio visual. Students' attention is 20 minutes. Last time we had lectures for 1 hour. Now we are told 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, you must have something which attracts the students' attention. Audio, visual, question, games, whatever. You cannot stand there and talk for 1 hour. Nobody will listen to you anymore. So the first thing we have to realize is Dhamma classes have to be made interactive. Gone are the days of a one-way direction. Gone are the days of holding a pointer in front of a blackboard. That's one. Second, nowadays, children are very smart. And I've said this so many times that I think many people don't like me saying it. You must not be caught in the old ways of telling fairy tales and myths to children. Because a lot of what we teach to children in Sunday or Friday Dharma school is not based in the Buddhist canon, but based on mythology. Now, children nowadays are very smart. They can easily check out what the teacher has taught them. And then they say, hey, teacher, this is not true. You will lose all credibility. In university, whenever we teach the students anything, if I tell the students, Sister Angeline can fly, then I have to provide a paper which provides that in this paper, peer-reviewed, double-blind study, Angeline can fly. Gone are the days where you take my word that Angeline can fly. It's the same even now in Dhamma class. If you have to tell a student certain things, you very well, you have the Nikaya to back it up. A lot of things, as I said, is based on legends and myths, not in the Nikaya. You will be shocked at how much is not in the Nikaya. But that's another story which we might talk about another day. The next thing is, it must be relatable to everyday life. Let me share with you this, brothers and sisters in the audience. Some years ago, I was asked to speak to the youth in Jakarta, in Indonesia. There, the youth pick their own topics. It's not one boring old man deciding, okay, today Dr. Wong will come and talk to the children on this. No, the youth themselves pick the topic. So I went to Jakarta to speak to the youth. Brother Alfred, what do you think was the topic they gave me? It's very, very interesting. The topic is, Sister Angeline will faint. What if I get pregnant? That's a very interesting topic because Sister Angeline will never dare talk to the two daughters on this topic. So since Dr. Wong is here, let's catch Dr. Wong. And the topic to the youths, teenagers, all giggly teenagers. What if I get pregnant? Of course, my first thing is I say, try not to get pregnant. But this is what I mean. Gone are the days where you come and you bring the children and you sit them down and you tell them, this is dependent origination, children. From ignorance, we have Sankara. And then you make the children memorize, you know. I tell you, you have just sent them to another religion. So you have to be able to teach them things which are relatable. So I tell my wife, if you teach them metta, ask them, do you have any pets at home? How do you treat your pet? You have to relate it to that. You want to talk about respect, then you talk about not respect to the Buddha, starting like that, but simple things. You have respect for your grandparents. When your grandparents come to your house, what do you do? When you have guests coming to your house, what do you do? Things that people can relate to every day. So for one, education has changed tremendously. Now it is children teaching children. In the university, my students teach themselves 90% of the time. I just moderate. So I tell my wife, make the children teach. So you're going to teach, for example, metta. Make one child come forward and talk. How I love my dog. Not say, the Buddha taught us about metta. Unconditional love. All those are words. Talk about what would their mother do when the child falls sick. What would the mother do when the child falls down and hurt the knee? That's metta. You have to tell them things in a way which they relate, and more important, which they themselves can teach themselves. So it is what we call a flipped classroom. The classroom has flipped. The teacher moderates. All right? And along the way, Brother Ju Sing in the 4-hour drive was talking to me about sandwich. You know, now in university, we cannot scold students. Are you aware of that? If you are to correct a student, you've got to use the sandwich method. So let's say Sister Angeline says that a camera nowadays is no good because it's digital. A film camera in the old days is much better. And all of us here disagree with Angeline. So I cannot say to Angeline, no, Angeline, you're wrong. A digital camera now with very high resolution is better. I cannot say that. If I say that, how are you? I have to tell Angeline, well, Angeline, that's a very good sight on your part. You have raised a very good point. First layer of the sandwich, praise. Second layer, but are you aware that the digital camera technology is so advanced now that from that satellite, the Chinese people can see what you're eating on your table, you know. The resolution is so high. So we correct her. And then the third layer of the sandwich, but you did very well. I think you should research on that Google camera that they have. Sandwich method. You see, when I was in school, if I said 3 times 2 is 5, my teacher would say, hold out your hand, take the cane and wall up my hand. Then I had to say, thank you, teacher, go home. My mother will wall up me one more time. Now we have to say, that's a very good answer, but it could be better. Life has changed. Similarly, our Dharma classes. So relate to real life, relate it to things that young people are interested in, and the most important of all, make it fun. Have lots of birthday parties, have lots of food, etc., etc.
Wow, looks like we have to throw away the syllabus, the standard syllabus that we are turning up, having the children book, level 1, level 2, level 3, and all this while, we are giving them homework, and we are telling them all the facts, and we always reprimand the children if they are not concentrating. Wow, all this we have to change. I don't know how are we going to do that. But with tonight's talk, we all realize that things need to go forward. We cannot depend on what we have been taught by our previous teachers.
More important, brother, I don't know about Subang Jaya, but we used to have exams in Dhamma class, you know. At the end of the year, we have exams and we grade. Oh, okay, you passed, you got this, you failed. I went and I said to everyone's horror, I told everyone, including the teachers, every one of you here failed. Why are you still here? If you had passed, you'll be an Arahant now.
No, in our time, it's just that we must have the exam so that we know that they're listening, they have to pay attention, and then we would like to reward them if they give them the extra stars, and that's what we do. And there might be expectations from parents that they must be homework, and that's all about. And we have to have documentation. That's why the exam is for the purpose.
Now in this age, to know that the child understands metta, the child has to be able to tell the story of how he or she loves the grandparents or love the dog. So when they can do that, we know they have understood the concept of metta. Not in an exam, write a 100-word essay on what do you understand on metta. Those was our days. Now is the child shows their understanding by relating it to real life. So in med school, we will say, if you are given a patient with this, what will you do? So if the student can answer, we know the student has understood. And we know that this student has read she or her or his homework. Because if he hasn't done that, he wouldn't be able to answer. So it is no more a formal exam like we did, you know, those days we hate write 200-word essay. After that, I got to count, you know, I've written 200 words. Nowadays, it's no more. It is continuous evaluation through a direct interaction with the student.
Wow. We have to go back to a drawing board to reinvent the way they're going to teach the children.
Another day, I'll come out and share with the Dhamma school.
Well, we are really looking forward to that because teaching profession in the Dhamma school, we have been told that this is what it is. The children need to pay attention to learn from us. We need to do the preparation. Well, this is the children. What about the adults? I think the adults may be more difficult because they have been years and very hard to bend. And they have their own thoughts, their knowledge, their background, and a bit of the ego. What do you think that we should do in societies? How should we do the propagation to the adults?
I think the same principle as what I said with regards to educating the children also apply to the adults. In this case, the adults, of course, being more matured, they're able to do more research on the internet, for example. So, you know, in the old days, it would say, please read chapter 1 and come back and we will discuss. Now we will say, instead of reading chapter 1, can you research on given a few topics? And so, you know that when you research, you have to read much more than chapter 1. So we are actually indirectly encouraging them to read. Now, I have to make known that I'm not born with this ability of what I shared with you. In the university, every year we go for courses on how to teach. And so what I shared with you is actually what I learned in the courses that I attend on how to teach. Because pedagogy has changed tremendously in the last 10 years. If you go to a modern university, you will find those huge auditoriums we had when we were in university are historical. No more big auditoriums. Now teachings is all in small little groups. And Angeline will have a shock of her life if I had to show her a modern university library, because there are no books in the library anymore. You go into the modern university library, it looks like a cafe with lots of computer terminals. All the student got to do is plug his or her notebook or whatever he's using into the terminal, and all the books in the library are accessible in that computer itself. So the world has changed, and I used to love to shock people by showing them a modern university library, no books. Everything is in the internet, on the ebook.
Well, I'm definitely very shocked today, and you're telling us that this development is already with us. Then I was thinking is that for newcomers, those who are not very knowledgeable in Dharma, but don't you think that it's easier that we bring them into Buddhism by encouraging them to develop faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and do some the compassion in action, and in the other deeds, instead of just we concentrate on the Sutta and the Dharma talk? What do you think?
Absolutely right, brother. I think one of the main things we need to do to encourage people, especially if new, is to first and foremost drop this noble silence thing. Many Buddhist centers or temples are very unwelcoming. Unwelcoming, not that they want to be unwelcoming, but because of the attitude of noble silence. You know, in many centers, you can walk in, do whatever you want to do, and leave without anybody even knowing, you know. So I think those days are gone. Brother Jusing will say, networking skills. He's a businessman. Everything to him is networking skills. So to him, anybody who walks in, if I see, hey, it's a new face, we must approach him, welcome him, ask him to sit down. Now, you might think this is something unusual. Let me share with you. I brought Brother Jusing with me to Jakarta on one of my Dhamma Dutta trips. And I was sharing to about maybe 70, 80 teenagers. And so in the early morning after breakfast, we walked in. Right at the door on two sides, you have young teenage boy, young teenage girl wearing a t-shirt, printed on the t-shirt, Dhamma Crew. You know, brother, Air Crew, SIA Air Crew, MAS Air Crew. Here is Dhamma Crew. So they stand there and they see Brother Chuan coming in, new face. Selamat datang, Bapak. Okay, very polite. Bring Brother Chuan in, bring him upstairs to where he is, make sure he has a seat. Bapak nak minum tak? Tea ke, kopi ke, anything? You can ask Brother Jusing right here. We are actually shocked at how backwards we are in comparison. But it is doable. It is actually very, very doable, except that it's never got into our attitude of doing that. How difficult it is to have two people standing there to welcome people. It's not that difficult. How difficult it is to bring them to a chair and say, have a bottle of mineral water. Not difficult. So one, we must make people welcome. I always say, if you want to preach about metta, live it. All the words about metta has no use if you do not actually show it. You have to show it, loving kindness. So for the adults, welcome them. Don't make them feel like this is such a cold place, you know. Second, ask people for our contact. Many people feel that, you know, I come here, very, very strange. Again, Brother Jusing is involved with this group called MetaNet in JB. So when they first started, they had a lot of people who are fringe Buddhists, people who had problems at work, which they managed to get in. And so they all came in, they all wanted to learn Buddhism. And then suddenly you have someone chanting, Anatipata Veramani. Because 90% of those people have absolutely no idea what you are chanting. And in fact, some of them ask, what's all this? So I advise the MetaNet group, next time, do the 5 precepts and the homage in English. At least make people understand. Now, I mean, if I were to bring Sister Angeline now and we attend one group, and these people talk in a funny way, Shuki Honto, and these people speak in a funny way, how would Sister Angeline feel? Am I joining a cult or what? I think it is much better that we use the language in which people understand. Even the Buddha himself, when he was alive, insisted that you mustn't use a formal language, but use the locality language. So I think that is very important. Make people feel welcome. Speak a language that people understand. And of course, as Brother Chuan said, everyone begins with faith. Everyone. That's how popular religion begins. But remember the 5 faculties that we have: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. This is not separate. Faith is only the beginning of the path. All right, it's very easy to remember, Sister Angeline. Your thumb is faith. The index finger which we write is energy. Middle, mindfulness. Ring finger, samadhi. Every time my wife scolds me, I go into deep samadhi, hearing. And of course, finally, wisdom. The wiser you are, the smaller you become. This has to be balanced. So yes, we all enter on faith, but you cannot stop at faith. You have to go on. So while I may have said a lot about all the rituals and all that, there is a role. Like I said, my late mother was very, very devotional. It provided her with a lot of emotional comfort. It is very faith-based. Every morning, every evening, she'll be chanting. But it provided her. You see, every one of us is at a different stage of this walk. Some are faster, some are slower. So while all the offerings of fruits, etc., yeah, it plays no role in your awakening. But for many people, they need it because they need it to provide the psychological comfort. All right, someone far on the path, a sotapan, has already seen that rites and rituals have no role. A sotapan, one of the factors that he broke is attachment to rites and rituals. So if you are a sotapan here, you will see no need for rites and rituals. But will a sotapan still partake in rites and rituals? Yeah, because you need it. Because you need it. You need it. He doesn't, but you do. So these are things that we need at different stages of our career in this progress. And so yes, there is still a role, but please don't get arrested there. And more importantly, please don't get attached there. Then you are stuck. Again, what do I mean? I tell you, when I was small, it's very difficult, Brother Chuan. We go out, whatever function, 9 o'clock, my mother said we must be home. Why? Because we must dong hyong at 9 o'clock. So being a very naughty boy, I will argue, why 9 o'clock, why not 9:30, why not 10 o'clock? Of course, just listen. Right? It's very typical. Our generation, so, okay. But you can realize, as I look back, it's very ritualistic. Okay, I would argue 9 o'clock here not the same as 9 o'clock in Jakarta. That's been very naughty, okay? Then my mother will say, put 3, just 6. Then I argue, why 3? Why not 5? 5 better, isn't it? Again, you see, there is this attachment, and she finds comfort in that attachment. You must understand, they were raised in a very difficult era. They were raised during the war and all that. So all these provide comfort. So she needed it. So I have to understand that even now, that while this might be seen as a rite and a ritual and an attachment, but at that stage, she needed it. So we do not condemn it because we are all at different stages. So for someone who needs it, yeah, of course, but don't get arrested. Don't get attached. You got to move on. You cannot be there forever. All right?
Well, yeah, at least you will clarify that, because many of us are doing the chanting and following the puja, and to us is that we get ourselves involved, and we are being encouraged to further develop our faith in Buddhism. And in the midst of it, we will be hearing some of the Dharma, and we will move to the next stage. What I felt is that there are lots to learn, and each of us, as mentioned earlier, are at different stages. What I got from the message is that what is the missing link is that we need to be engaging to those people who walks in to every center, engage with them, show that we welcome them. Not that they're coming to a place and feeling so cold and strange. Wow, I think there's some work to be done on this. Oh, I think this is really a new way of encouraging people to walk in to our center. Today's talk was, I would say, is magnificent by Dr. Punna, who visiting the final to the long series of mentally stimulating and enriching talks. And today's talk further opened the horizon of our mind to examine, to challenge, and to test every teachings, to verify before accepting. Instead of just accepting based on blind faith. Today, we have been given so many amazing examples why we should not just surrender to faith. Do not just surrender to faith, but instead, we have to learn, investigate. Most important to me is to practice and reflect deeper our insight into the truth of our existence and perfecting ourselves in deed and wisdom via gradual course of training to eventually be liberated from suffering. We have to do, just like mentioned by the speaker, we don't tell them about compassion. We have to show the example, compassion in action. Tell the children how they would like to carry out the compassionate activities or practices in their own family and their own homes. And to the adults who may have other things to do, like helping those in trouble during this difficult period. Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, it's been a wonderful evening listening to such enlightening Dharma sharing. We have definitely learned so much since the beginning of this series. It has been even wonderful to our Dharma friends out there from various countries. I thank you very much for following our Dharma series. Following the Dharma sharing since the beginning, the first one we had a breaking myth, and then now the walking in the Buddha's footprint. Well, we may consider to find time to reflect ourselves now in December, end of the year of 2021. With the learning of Dharma, how should we practice? How should we express our compassion? How do we do compassion in action? Kindness to our Dharma friends and to any other human beings. Service to the community. Continue to support in the efforts of the propagation of the Dharma. And definitely our speaker, Dr. Punna, have done that very well. Sadhu to you. He has spent so much time preparing and delivering his talk. Brothers and sisters out there, please continue to thank our speaker. Thank you for those who have sent their comments and well wishes. Thank you so much to those who have been working behind the scene, preparing the materials, doing the setup, having the trials, the technical team. To the various co-hosting Buddhist societies, there's so many of you out there from the north to the south. I must say that you guys have done great in sharing the Dharma, the wonderful Dharma, to so many of the other Buddhists in your society and to many families. And thank you to the Johor Gladians who have done the great job in initiating this hosting, broadcasting to so many Buddhist societies. To them and to everybody, sadhu, 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 sadhu. Brothers and sisters, we are grateful that we are able to listen to this beautiful Dharma safely in your home during this COVID-19 period. Listening the Dharma with a calm mind and with wholesome thoughts, with the merits that we accrue. Let us dedicate merits to our departed families, relatives, friends, teachers, and all sentient beings. May they rejoice in our good merits. And before we do the sharing of the merits, I'd like to ask whether our speaker would like to have a word to the audience.
Thank you, Brother Chuan. I would like to take this opportunity again to say thank you to all the participating societies. And it has been my dream that all the societies in Malaysia, of which there are so many, can be unified in our Dharma Duta work. And this has a small little step in that we've got more than 10 societies involved on a regular basis whenever we share. The second thing is I want to express my deepest gratitude to our manager, Brother Dusing, who for the last 2 years has been running around, doing lots of background work, organizing all the talks and freeing me so that I will only need to prepare the talks. And third, a really huge word of gratitude to the IT people whom you do not see. For example, just before tonight, they spent about half an hour running around the whole hall here, trying to get everything ready. And believe me, it's not an easy job, because when something goes wrong, everybody points fingers at them. When nothing goes wrong, nobody thanks them. So for 2 years, they have been doing the IT work, and I'm really very, very grateful to them, because without them, we would not have succeeded. And finally, I want to say that in sharing, I actually benefit the most, because in sharing, I learn the most. So I want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity in the last 2 years. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And yes, I must definitely agree that those behind the scene are very, very important so that we can deliver the Dharma talk to you wherever you are. Suki Hontu, we have come to the end of the session of this enlightening, positive, inspiring, insightful Dharma sharing and engaging our mind. I can say that he has planted good seeds today in us for tomorrow's fruits. We need to constantly, regularly listen, but more importantly, to practice the Dharma. Thank you to those who have shared the links to the Dharma talks with your families, relatives, and friends, and with your other groups, with the spike of the COVID-19 cases near our homes. To ensure safety of yourself and your family, remember to stay safe is to stay cautious. Before I say good night, may you and your families, relatives and friends, and all beings be well, happy, and free from suffering. See you again. Good night. Sabbe Sata Sukita Hontu. Sa.